I'm Emily, 30 years old, and last March, the love of my life, Ryan, 31 and the most supportive, loyal man I've ever known, got down on one knee and proposed after 6 beautiful years together. It felt like the universe aligned, like every puzzle piece of my life finally clicked into place. But the moment I shared the news with my family, the dream began to twist into a nightmare. My mother and my half-sister Cassie, who's 24 and has always harbored an odd, simmering jealousy, turned my engagement into some sort of personal war zone. My mom married my stepdad Tom when I was 5, and though Cassie and I grew up in the same house, we've never truly bonded. We were more like reluctant roommates than sisters. Cassie's been in a quiet competition with me for as long as I can remember, throwing tantrums over better grades, sulking if I was complimented. As adults, the rivalry only grew louder. I earned a college scholarship while she didn't attend. I built a stable, loving relationship while she ricocheted through heartbreak after heartbreak. And now, with my engagement, she apparently saw it as an attack, like my happiness was some cruel weapon aimed at her. When Ryan proposed during a peaceful weekend at home, we decided on a cozy January wedding with about 70 guests. Intimate, meaningful, perfect. I was elated, but when I called my mom, her first words weren't congratulations. They were, "Oh, Cassie's not going to like this." I laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. Apparently, my engagement was insensitive, because Cassie was still single and finding herself. I tried to ignore it. Then, like clockwork, Cassie announced her own engagement, after just 3 chaotic months of dating a guy none of us even knew. It screamed desperation. I bit my tongue, respecting her choice. Predictably, by July, her whirlwind marriage collapsed. Jake, her husband, cheated on her with her best friend, and 2 months after the wedding, she was filing for divorce. I genuinely felt sorry for her and tried to offer support, but she shut me out like I was the villain of her story. Slowly, I realized she wasn't just grieving, she was seething. She saw my engagement as the starting pistol in a race she needed to win. And when her world imploded, it was easier to turn me into the enemy than face her own impulsive decisions. By fall, things were ice cold between us, and my mom had grown distant too, dodging every wedding-related topic like it physically pained her. Then, in mid-November, we sent out our wedding invites, and for a fleeting moment, I felt joyful. But that bliss shattered 2 days later when my mom called, something she never does. The conversation started politely, then she hit me with it. "So, you're really going through with the wedding?" I laughed, thinking she meant the logistics. "Yeah, everything's set." But then she sighed, this long, theatrical sigh that oozed judgment, and said, "I've been thinking about Cassie, and I really think you should reconsider." I was stunned. Reconsider what? "Cancel the wedding," she clarified, "or at least tone it down. Cassie's still so broken. A big celebration right now would be cruel." I was speechless. Cancel my wedding, after a year of planning, because my half-sister rushed into a doomed marriage? "You could just do something small," she suggested. "A church ceremony with just immediate family. That way you're not flaunting it." Flaunting it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't about Cassie's pain. It was about her bitterness. I calmly reminded her that this wedding was about celebrating the love Ryan and I had built over 6 years, not about Cassie's failed rebound. That's when Mom lost it. "If you truly loved your sister, you'd do this for her," she snapped. I told her I wasn't canceling anything. She exploded, calling me heartless, selfish, saying, "I thought I raised you better." I ended the call, shaking with fury, and told Ryan everything. He was just as shocked. "Who asked their daughter to cancel her wedding because someone else got divorced?" he asked, incredulous. But it didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, Mom launched a relentless guilt campaign, calling me every few days with the same manipulative pitch. "Cassie's hurting. This is too much. A small wedding would be kinder." She even had the audacity to call Ryan directly, trying to rope him in. Thank God he stood firm. And then Cassie jumped into the fray. She started, texting me vague, bitter jabs. "Must be nice to have everything work out for you." And, "Don't you think January is a weird time for a wedding?" Or did you pick it just to rub it in my face? Rub it in her face? I was stunned by the sheer audacity. It was like Cassie had made it her mission to emotionally hijack my wedding. At first, I tried to ignore her escalating behavior, hoping she'd tire herself out, but she only grew more manipulative. She started bombarding me with long, guilt-ridden voicemails, crying about how even thinking about weddings was triggering for her, accusing me of being insensitive and making her so-called healing harder. What truly broke me was how my mom eagerly played into the drama. It was like they fed off each other's hysteria. Mom would call me saying things like, "Cassie cried all night thinking about your wedding." And the very next day, Cassie would text something like, "Mom's heartbroken over how you're handling things." It was suffocating. I felt like I was being emotionally blackmailed into making my wedding about their wounds instead of my joy. Deep down, I realized this wasn't about Cassie's divorce or her grief. It was about control. They wanted to dictate the tone of my life to accommodate their chaos, and I was done letting them rob me of my happiness. By December, things had unraveled completely. Cassie shifted from sending pitiful texts to launching a full-blown smear campaign, trashing my name to anyone who'd listen. It started subtly. My cousin Megan, the unofficial family informant, told me Cassie was calling relatives, painting me as a heartless show-off, accusing me of purposely choosing a wedding date close to her divorce just to emotionally destroy her. The absurdity was mind-boggling. I had been engaged long before her marriage even happened, let alone her messy breakup. But logic wasn't Cassie's strong suit when she had a victim narrative to push. With every retelling, her version grew more dramatic. Suddenly, I was the golden child flaunting my so-called perfect life to torment her. Some family members even believed her. My mom, of course, was her loudest supporter, calling me almost daily, urging me to cancel or downsize my wedding for fragile Cassie, saying things like, "She cried all night after seeing your invitations." It wore me down. The breaking point came on Christmas, during a family dinner at my aunt's. I thought it might be a rare, peaceful evening, but of course Mom and Cassie were there, and the tension was thick from the start. Cassie barely looked at me, and any time I dared mention anything wedding-related, she'd dramatically sigh or roll her eyes. While I was chatting about flowers with my aunt, she loudly muttered, "Must be nice to blow all that money on a party, while other people are trying to survive." I ignored her, trying to stay composed. But then, out of nowhere, she launched into a performance, sobbing, trembling, whining about how cruel I was for flaunting my joy while she was barely holding it together. My aunt rushed to comfort her, and Mom, predictably, jumped in to scold me for my lack of empathy. That's when I snapped. I stood my ground and told them this wedding had nothing to do with Cassie's broken marriage, and that maybe she should take responsibility for her reckless decisions instead of blaming me. The room went silent. Cassie's fake tears turned to venom. She lashed out, accusing me of having it easy, of never struggling, of always being handed everything. Shaking with rage, I told her maybe if she spent less time being bitter and more time working on herself, she wouldn't be in this mess. Ryan grabbed my hand and said, "We're leaving," and I didn't hesitate. On the drive home, I replayed everything, wondering if I'd gone too far. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had every right to defend myself. Cassie had hijacked my joy for weeks, and I was done letting her make my wedding her pity parade. What cut deepest was how my mom had instantly leapt to Cassie's defense, never once acknowledging the emotional toll it was taking on me. It felt like she had chosen her favorite, and it wasn't me. The next day, I got a cold text from her. "You owe your sister an apology." I didn't reply. I was done apologizing for things that weren't my fault. It became glaringly clear Cassie wasn't going to stop, and Mom was never going to stop enabling her. I had to prepare for the inevitable. After reading your kind comments and really sitting with the chaos, I knew I had to draw a hard line. Ignoring them wasn't working, and trying to defend myself only added fuel to their fire. So I made the most difficult but empowering decision of my life. I uninvited them from the wedding. I sat down with Ryan, my rock through it all, and tearfully admitted, I think I need to cut them out. Without missing a beat, he agreed. This is our day, he said. You deserve peace. I wrote them a brief but firm email listing their toxic behavior, manipulation, rumor spreading, guilt tripping, and made it clear that for my mental well-being, they were no longer welcome at the wedding. As soon as I hit send, I felt like I could finally breathe again. But it didn't take long for the backlash to begin. My mom's response was a masterclass in guilt tripping, calling me cold-hearted, claiming I'd betrayed her, that I was choosing a man over my blood, and even invoking my late father's disappointment like a weapon. I didn't reply. Then Cassie fired back with venom, accusing me of jealousy, of what, I still have no clue, of punishing her for being honest, and ending with the melodramatic threat, "You'll regret this when you realize you've destroyed this family." Again, no reply. But of course the fallout rippled. Calls, texts, relatives I hadn't heard from in months suddenly had opinions telling me I was being immature, that I needed to let it go for the sake of family. Just when I thought the storm had finally begun to pass, chaos came knocking again. This time in the form of a voicemail from Harmony, a cousin I barely even speak to. Her message? "I can't believe you'd do something like this to your own mother." At first, her words hit me like a punch to the chest. The backlash felt suffocating, overwhelming, but then something unexpected happened. Something beautiful. The people who truly mattered began to step forward. Aunt Laura, my dad's sister, called and said with unwavering conviction, "I'm proud of you for standing your ground. You've tolerated their nonsense for far too long. It's about time you took control." Her words were like a life raft in a sea of chaos. My cousin Megan, who'd been keeping me updated on Cassie's toxic behavior, sent a heartfelt text. "Don't let them get under your skin. Everyone who truly knows you is on your side." Even her no-nonsense godmother chimed in, saying, "Your wedding should be about love and joy, not bitterness and theatrics." Their support was a balm to my soul, the first real comfort I'd felt in weeks. But of course, my mother and Cassie weren't about to go quietly into the night. Just a week after I sent that email cutting Cassie out of the wedding, Megan called again, this time sounding exasperated and almost amused. "You're not going to believe what Cassie's telling people now. She says you uninvited her because you're threatened by her." I literally burst out laughing. Threatened? By her? Megan explained that Cassie had started spreading some absurd story that I caught Ryan flirting with her, and, in a jealous rage, banned her to save face. The sheer audacity of it was laughable, but also infuriating. It was obvious she was trying to drag Ryan into her fantasy to stir up sympathy. "That's just pathetic," I said. Megan agreed. "She's grasping at straws. Most people don't believe her, but you know how she is. She'll keep pushing until someone takes the bait." I decided then and there not to waste another ounce of energy on her delusions. Ryan and I shifted our focus to what mattered, protecting our peace. We reviewed the guest list, double-checked every detail, and even contacted the venue to ensure they'd be on alert in case Cassie or my mom tried to crash the event. We even hired security guards, something I never imagined I'd have to do for my own wedding. Through it all, Ryan was my anchor, always reminding me, this is our day. We don't owe anyone an explanation for safeguarding our happiness. By the time New Year's arrived, I felt like I had finally regained control of my life. Cassie and Mom could twist the story however they liked. It wouldn't touch us. But then came the final revolting twist. Just days before the wedding, Ryan received a strange text from Cassie. "Hey Ryan, I really need someone to talk to. I know you probably think I'm awful, but I'm struggling and you're the only one who understands. Can we meet?" Something about it immediately felt off. Cassie had never shown any interest in Ryan. Why now? He didn't respond. Instead, more texts followed, each more desperate than the last. She rambled about being lonely, how much she valued his kindness, painting a false history that never existed. And then came the bombshell. "I've been thinking about you a lot. I know it's wrong, but I feel like we have a connection Emily doesn't understand. I don't know what to do with these feelings." I saw red. This wasn't just desperate. It was calculated, manipulative, and utterly disgusting. Ryan, bless him, didn't even flinch. He showed me the message and asked, "How do you want to handle this?" I told him to take screenshots and block her number immediately. And he did. I wasn't going to respond to her directly. She didn't deserve the attention. But I sent an email to my mom and a few close relatives attaching the screenshots. I laid out everything plainly. This is why I uninvited Cassie. Her behavior is not only toxic but dangerous. I've tried to keep the peace, but this goes beyond petty drama. Unsurprisingly, Mom rushed to defend her golden child, accusing Ryan of misinterpreting the messages and scolding me for making everything about myself. I nearly sprained my eyes from rolling them so hard, but the rest of the family, they rallied around me. Megan called, her voice sharp with outrage. "I knew she was a mess, but this is sick. Good for you for cutting her off." Aunt Laura was equally furious. "You're absolutely right. She's crossed every line imaginable. She has no place at your wedding." Their support meant the world, but it didn't completely numb the sting. Cassie's betrayal wasn't just cruel, it was humiliating. She tried to destroy something beautiful out of jealousy, spite, or maybe just an insatiable hunger for attention. Whatever her motives, one thing became clear. She wasn't going to win. With only days to go before the wedding, I made a solemn promise to myself. This day would be about love, joy, and new beginnings. And no amount of chaos from Cassie or Mom would ever take that from me. I wasn't taking any chances when it came to protecting my peace on the biggest day of my life. I doubled down on security, personally contacted the venue to give them a firm warning about the situation, and made it crystal clear that my mom and Cassie were absolutely not welcome. I even hired an extra security guard just in case they dared to show up. It might have seemed over the top to some, but after the emotional chaos they'd already unleashed, I wasn't about to let them destroy what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. And yet, even with all the precautions, nothing could have fully prepared me for the chaos that unfolded. The morning of the wedding was perfect. Sunlight, soft breeze, flowers in full bloom, and laughter from my bridesmaids as we got ready. When I saw Ryan for our first look, all the tension washed away. He looked nervous and thrilled, and in that moment, I felt like nothing else mattered. But peace is fleeting when you have toxic family members determined to make your joy their battleground. Just 30 minutes before the ceremony, my maid of honor, Amanda, stormed into the bridal suite, pale and breathless. They were here. My mother and Cassie had shown up at the gate, causing a loud, dramatic scene. Security was holding them off, but they weren't going quietly. My mom was crying, playing the role of the heartbroken mother begging to see her daughter wed, while Cassie was screaming vile accusations, claiming I didn't deserve happiness. I was livid. After all their manipulations and cruelty, they had the nerve to crash my wedding? I told Amanda not to let them near me, not to tell Ryan, and to let security handle the disaster outside. And thank God they did. The venue staff called for a ride to haul them away, but not before Cassie screeched across the parking lot, "You'll regret this, Emily. You'll regret cutting out your own family." I didn't flinch. I refused to let them win. The ceremony went ahead, beautiful and filled with love. I stood beside Ryan under the soft glow of twinkling lights, surrounded by people who truly cared, not out of obligation, but because they chose to be there. As the evening unfolded, guests came up to me, my dad, my sister, Aunt Laura, even some of my mom's old friends, and told me how proud they were of me for taking a stand. For once, people saw the truth, how manipulative and toxic my mom and Cassie had become. Their attempt to ruin my day only spotlighted their dysfunction. Ryan and I danced, laughed, cried happy tears, and basked in genuine joy. That night, I saw missed calls and desperate texts from my mom. I didn't read a single one. I was done giving them space in my heart. But fate had one final twist to deliver. A week later, my cousin Megan called, barely containing her glee. Cassie and my mom had a massive fallout. Apparently, Cassie, bitter and stewing over her failed sabotage, turned on my mom and blamed her for not stopping the wedding. She exploded, yelling that Mom had failed her as a parent and betrayed her by not doing more. After years of enabling her, Mom finally snapped. She told Cassie to grow up, take responsibility for her actions, and get out of her house. And just like that, she kicked her out. I almost laughed at the irony. After everything, after all of Mom's blind loyalty to Cassie, it came full circle. Their venom turned inward and they self-destructed. Karma, it seemed, had a flair for the dramatic. I felt no sympathy. They reaped what they sowed. I've since blocked them on every platform, made my boundaries crystal clear to the family, and refused to entertain a single update about their ongoing chaos. Ryan and I are moving forward, free from the darkness they tried to drag us into. And for the first time in years, I feel light, whole, and fiercely at peace.